Вітаю, колеги! Дуже рада вас бачити. Дуже рада презентувати сьогодні цю дуже важливу для нас тему. І я переключусь зараз на англійську мову і буду розмовляти англійською мовою. So, hello everyone. I'm happy to see you today. I'm happy to present today's topic which is essential, which is very important for me and I think for all of us. And today's topic we will explore, we will present, we will discover together with Shiri. Shiri was a president, she's ex-president at ICF Israel. That's how we actually met. And this topic is called coaching through collective trauma. Actually, it's not just a topic, it has been a project. We've been exploring, we've been preparing for the last year. And I would like to mention several words why this topic, why we're talking about it today. As a country, as the countries, both Ukraine and Israel are the countries which are living in the reality of war, this reality affects all spheres of our lives. And obviously, we can't just coach, we can't just live as we used to live before. And I believe, basically, I can just say that this topic is so important that each time I talk about it, there are some technical peculiarities happening. So basically, my first touch with actually coaching through not collective trauma, but coaching during the times of war was 2 years ago when I organized a discussion panel in ICF Ukraine during the International Coaching Week, because when the war started, I wasn't sure how to coach. I wasn't sure how to live. I wasn't sure if coaching was valid, if coaching was useful, how to coach people, how to maintain this ICF presence, how to adhere to ICF ethics and competencies. So there were many, many questions in my head, and there was nowhere I could go, nobody I could really ask, because all of us were in this situation of actually going through this very hard experience. And I organized this first panel, and there were coaches from our chapter who shared their experience that actually coaching can be useful, that coaching helps. However, there are several buts. Yeah, so what we have to consider, what we have to take into account when coaching people in such circumstances. And last year, when Israel was in the situation of war, right? When we had another country going through the terrible, horrible situation of war, and people, like not only people, but coaches as people going through this situation. So I actually organized a panel where we spoke between ICF Ukraine, and I invited Shiri and her colleagues to share their experience. And it was really touching, really profound session where we actually described how we go through this, how we manage this. And from that communication, I guess, we started developing further, because what I see, like living in Europe, I see that the reality of war, and then I guess many of you who live in European countries, you know that it feels totally different, that it's a totally different attitude, approach, right? And the further from Ukraine, for example, I'm speaking from Ukrainian perspective, yeah, the less is the feeling that actually there is war somewhere, and how to deal with that, how to be a coach, right? And that's why Shiri, me, and a group of other coaches, we decided to do something about it, to actually open the ground within ICF, to actually speak up, to explain, to maybe help others see what's important, what's essential, what we have to pay attention to. And from that conversation last year, we have started this project, which we called Coaching Through Collective Trauma, the purpose of which was a document where we described what we deem important, what we consider is important to pay attention to. And I may say that we have already completed this document. We have completed this project, which was also not very easy to complete because you know, it's something new. It's something nobody knows what and how it should be structured. And we are all volunteers, so the motivation is also, you know, the question. And also, I would like to thank Olena Fedorchenko. She is head of committee for ethics. She was also actively participating in other colleagues, right? So that everyone is aware of what's happening. So, and the idea is actually, I see that the majority of people here are Ukrainian coaches, so I'm quite confident you know what I'm talking about, right? And there is also, I see a few guests, a few foreign guests who are with us today, so thank you for being with us and for your interest. Basically, what I would like to suggest right now, I would like to give the space for Shiri. As you have already learned, Shiri is an MCC coach, ex-president of ICF Israel, many other things. Shiri, just tell us your part of the story, how you experienced this, why you were thinking it was important actually to dedicate your time, because you dedicated a lot of time to this project and delivering this document.
Wow, thank you. I am so happy we completed the project. It was a long birth, a long pregnancy. You know, we are more than a year and a half into the war in Israel. The international climate has changed a lot. But I think we connected, it was 6 months into the war. And I reached out after that webinar where I was invited. I was privileged to be invited as a panel guest. And I remember that I spoke with Elena and I said, Elena, what do you do? What do we do? What's happening here? And Elena said, yeah, we are a year and a half into that. This is real. Because I said, you know, am I imagining things? Because I felt the coaching space had changed and nobody was talking about it. We were struggling, but we had to name it. So the fact that I get, you know, it resonated with you, Elena, gave me the confidence to say, okay, if something is happening, what do we do in coaching? We create clarity. Okay, something is there. We have first level listening, second level listening, and third level listening where we listen to the space. So we brought together a group of amazing coaches to create a document that helps us navigate what's happening in the space. A lot of it is not spoken. And Elena and I will talk a little bit about the document. It was sent to ICF for reviewing. But I think that we realized that this is real. So for me, having a little bit of background with therapeutic approaches, I didn't want to go into therapy. That's the first thing. The second thing was that because I'm a medical coach and I work with people that are going through severe crisis, I could understand, I could feel there's something common here. Okay, the emotional chaos all of a sudden is going into areas that are not medical coaching. So when we got together, we realized there were a few things that were actually happening. And then we decided, like coaches, to walk our talk and create something for the rest of our community, because everybody on this team was passionate about coaching and coaches. I'm going to say one more thing from a personal view, and then we're going to go, I guess, into, you know, opening it up for questions and talking about the document. I think my first shock after the war in Israel broke was the fact that politics was coming between coaches. That even though when we talk about coaching, we talk about seeing our client beyond their circumstances, I realized that in the coaching community, that was not happening. So it was with great sadness that I say here that a lot of coaches that were invited to take part in this task force decided not to take part in creating this document because of where the other members were located because of their countries of origin. So unfortunately, a lot of members that we approached were not able to put politics aside. Nonetheless, I think we created something that the rest of the world of coaching will be able to use and enjoy, especially the next country this happens to, because it's clear that we are not the last.
Thank you. Thank you, Shiri. What I would like to do next is we shared with Shiri our approach to how we live this reality through the war, like our coaching reality through the war. I know that there are a lot of you here, colleagues, who experience the same. So I would like to ask you the question, and maybe you would like to share your experience as well. So how your coaching has changed since the beginning of the war, how you have changed as coaches. What's different for you? What's your style? How your style of coaching has changed? So anything, we just would like to make this like an open space, not just for us to talk, but also for you to share how you see it, how you are different, what's different in your coaching. Any of these questions will be highly appreciated. I know it was maybe unexpected, and I know that many of you may be at work, at some places where you can't speak, but if you do, I would really encourage you, if you speak in Ukrainian, I can even translate it into English, so don't worry. So maybe who is willing to share your perspective?
And you can also share in the chat box or, unmute, whatever feels comfortable.
Так, Олена, якщо можна, поки наші учасники думають, готуються, я можу поділитися особисто, як я відчуваю особистим досвідом.
Так, звісно, Наталю, дуже буде, дуже ціную, звісно.
Правда, українською.
Добре, українською, тоді я буду перекладати. So Natalia will, since our official language is English today, I'll just share, Natalia is willing to share her experience. Ну, тобто декілька речень, і я тоді буду перекладати, так?
Так, а учасникам я скажу, що Олена запитала, можливо, у кого немає можливості переглядати субтитри, про те, щоб ми поділилися нашим досвідом коучингу в період війни, так, коли у війну, що змінилося в нас, як в коучів чи в запитах. І я хочу сказати, що дуже змінилися в мені, як в коучі. Да, я зрозуміла, що мені дуже важливо бути в ресурсному стані. Коли я проводжу коучинг з українцями, маю я бути в ресурсі, наповнена для того, щоб цей коучинг дійсно був якісним.
Наталю, да, я зараз буду трохи перекладати. So basically, Natalia is sharing that what's the most important for her right now in coaching is to be in a resourceful state, to feel strength, like energy, to be full of energy in order to be able to coach Ukrainians who are living in Ukraine.
І відповідно, дуже багато клієнтів приходить із запитами на стабілізацію цього внутрішнього стану, на пошук ресурсів, на резильєнтність, з цією тривожністю, з невизначеністю і невпевненістю в завтрашньому дні, навіть сьогоднішньому. Такі зміни я спостерігаю.
So a lot of Ukrainians come with a request of resilience, finding resources, finding inner strength, finding this inner state, and a lot of questions and inquiries are concerned the state of unknown, that we are all living in unknown and we are not aware of what's going to happen next. Це все, так, Наталю? Це те, що ви...
Так, дякую. Я думаю, можна багато говорити на цю тему, тому що ми проживаємо такий унікальний досвід, як коучів, да, як люди, як особистості в період війни. Це ніхто не думав, що, наприклад, я навіть уявити не могла, що мені доведеться жити, да, в таких умовах. Але основне це невизначеність, не такий розпач якийсь, що стосується бізнес-коучингу, як планувати взагалі, як ставити довгострокові цілі в таких умовах, коли ти не знаєш абсолютної визначеності, в умовах тривожності, в умовах не просто нестабільності і кризи, це такі надлюдські умови, коли в будь-який момент є загроза не лише здоров'ю, а життю кожної людини, кожного українця.
So there are many questions: how to develop your business, how to move forward, what plans, what to plan, how to live further, because it's not only like hard conditions or crisis, it's beyond human. This is conditions for an unhuman, let's say unhuman condition, where there is not only a threat to your health, but a threat to your life. And that's why how to live, how to move on in these conditions. Дякую, Наталю. I would like also to add that actually yesterday during the International Coaching Week, as I live in Vilnius, I organized a workshop for people to actually speak about ICF coaching, show how it is, what it is. And the majority of people who were present there were Ukrainian women who live in Vilnius. And these were the questions that were like pronounced by everyone. So it's really like how to go beyond and not being able to let go this past we used to have. How we can plan, how we can move forward. And what I can actually say, that what the magic of coaching, which happened yesterday, that many participants told me, you give us hope, you gave us hope that actually things are possible. We allowed ourselves to dream, actually to move, to look beyond what's happening right now. Because I can say that people who live outside Ukraine sometimes suffer even more emotionally, because it's a guilt. I, as a human, like as an Ukrainian living outside, can admit that it's like a guilt. There are many feelings we are experiencing while living abroad. And we also have our chat here. I'll read what's written in a chat. And Yulia is writing, and Yulia Demchenko, thank you for your comment. She's saying that she can't find the right words. And so far it's like I guess it's coaching, became more compassionate. It's not about like just achieving something, but how to survive something. And thank you, Yulia, and Ludmila Terkun, thanks for your comment. There are many questions now about uncertainty, about what to do next, how to move forward. And in work, it's important to be in the emotional resource of the coach himself. Yes, absolutely, Ludmila, thanks for sharing this. And that's true. And if there is anybody else willing to share, feel free, or otherwise we will move further with our presentation, what we would like to present.
Yeah, I think we can move forward.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I can share the screen. Наталю, а можна мені ще раз, будь ласка, ко-хост, тому що я, коли зайшла з комп'ютера, в мене...
Так, Олена, так. Шукаю вас. Шукаю ваш нік.
So we are waiting for the possibility to show the screen.
Нагадайте мені, будь ласка, як ви в нас тут в Нік у вас все,
Елена.
знайшла. Роблю вас сокостом, передаю вам права, і ви зараз можете демонструвати екран. Здається?
Зараз.
Угу.
Do you see my screen?
No.
Так, поки що в мене на екрані чорний екран. О, пішла презентація.
So the document we've created for ICF is as follows, and what we can see here, we give a definition of collective trauma, first of all. So I'll just speak, Shiri, and you please just add whatever you feel free, like necessary, yeah. So why we like to pay attention to collective trauma? Because it's not only about individuals, it's about society. And how we can address that, how we can deal with that. It's what we try to describe in our documents. And what's also important is war-related collective trauma. So it's not only collective trauma due to some force majeure or hurricane or, you know, some events, but war-related events, because it's much more, it includes many more layers, many more complications, and it's important to consider that. Would you like to add something here, Shiri?
Yeah, I'm going to say a few things. First of all, when we're talking about war-related collective trauma, we're talking about a situation that is ongoing. So we're talking about people that are living in this situation for more than 6 months, more than a year. Oftentimes there is a start date, but no end date. I was asked over this year many times if our document is going to talk about collective trauma in general. Let's say, you know, climate related. And my answer is yes, you can look at this document and also take things that are related to other collective traumas. For example, the fires in LA. I supported the LA chapter and the president of LA. I took a lot from this document. But like Elena said, there's something about war-related trauma. And we will talk about themes in a few minutes. There is another level of complexity here. Because if we talk about climate and nature and stuff like that, oftentimes the cause is uncontrollable. It's bigger than us. With war-related trauma, it's us, it's people. And there's something about that, about the cruelty that we're subjected to, that creates very deep wounds. And those wounds and that complexity find their way into the coaching space, even though this is not a therapy space. And we need to know what to do with it.
Yeah, thanks, Shiri. So another thing I would like actually to add here about this document, about the idea, is actually to share it as much as possible. Not only talk between us, between our chapters, between our countries, because we know that we are already aware of what's happening. We've lived through that. But what I guess it's important is actually to speak up, to share these ideas. And that's actually what we're going to do next with Shiri. That's our plan. So if you have any ideas or suggestions or would like to participate, just feel free. Because I believe that the world, the coaching, even the coaching world, it's like something is happening, but something nobody wants to deal with. It's so uncomfortable, right? So we really, there is like just another war, you know, but no, I don't think it's like that. And that's not how we want to live. And that's not the world we want to live in. That's why I believe it's really important to share this thought, these ideas with other coaches in a constructive partnering manner, because otherwise, in our Ukrainian reality, in the coaching world actually split, right? And it was like, okay, there are other coaches from other countries who are suffering, and there are our coaches who are suffering, but it's not the same level of suffering. We can't compare these things. That's why I would like to explain our point of view, our pain, our hardships, so that others would find place to empathy, to understanding of what's going on. That's another concept I would like to mention here. And what we mentioned...
I just want to say one little thing about that. When we started with this document, the attitude we got was, yeah, this is very niche. You know, there's a situation in Ukraine, situation in Israel. But if you look at the global news, this is happening all around the world. What we have created here is relevant to every coach. And the idea is to talk about the human experience, not the Ukrainian experience, not the Israeli experience. There's a human experience that happens in war.
And what we stress, the document is obviously much bigger, and we'll be able to share it with you as well, if you wish, if you will. And so basically where we start is actually this coaching constellations, because there is this reality where coaching client live and function in an environment of collective trauma. And for me, the example, the very hard example, was when I was mentoring as a mentor in a mentor coaching group, and both coach and client were in Ukraine actually, and there were these sirens actually. Sirens and the possibility of an attack happening. And I can say that it affected everyone, that it affected both coach, client, mentor, and everyone in the group. Then we talk about coach who lives in an environment of collective trauma. And then we mentioned the client who lives in an environment of collective trauma and is directly affected by it, and the coach is not. Shiri, would you like to add something here?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. And in this document, you know, we're going to talk about both coach, and we talk about both coach and clients because we cover all three constellations. And what we realized is that oftentimes you have initiatives from around the world wanting to help clients, help people that are in a situation of war, of collective trauma, and they don't have enough knowledge. So there's certain things, even if you're coaching and you are not in that environment, but your client is, there's certain things that we state out in this document that are so important that every coach knows.
Yeah. So here we mention 5 themes and considerations. We believe are crucial, we believe are key. Obviously, in each of them, there will be many things, but those are resilience, post-traumatic growth, executive functions, moral injury, loss, and grief. And would you like to share a little bit more, Shiri?
Yeah, what I want to say is that when we're talking, so, you know, we can ping pong this between us, or just, you know, but these are 5 things that we want to offer you an additional perspective on. So in the document, we talk about what it is, we talk about the cultural aspect of it, we talk about the ethical aspect of it, and we talk about the coach's role and reflective questions for the coach. So this is a working document, okay? It's like a roadmap. Take it and work with it. But when we're talking about resilience, we're not just talking about, the unique thing about this kind of resilience is that there is no end date to the chaos. This resilience is about navigating the emotional chaos, the uncertainty, the fear, a lot of anchors of safety collapse in the space. So the resilience is, we're talking about radical resilience here, and the need to adapt it both to the conditions, which are, very, very turmoil. So we look at it through the lens of VUCA, but we also look at it through the lens of BUNNY. These are two acronyms. So if you don't know, write in the chat. And VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And BUNNY stands for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. So creating structures of resilience in an environment where you don't know what to expect, everything is volatile, everything is changing, and there is concrete danger to your life, to the loves of your loved one, to, not just, your physical life, but there's danger to your concept of world, your concept of the world. And this is another kind of resilience we're talking about. Do you want to add anything to that, Selena?
Yeah. So what I actually would like to share is a little bit what we also mentioned in our document. So basically, we mention such terms as what is bouncing back. Yeah, so it's integrating the learnings from the experience into a new sense of self. Yeah, so in coaching, it's like when we speak in terms of war reality, we speak a lot of new identities, new sense of self, which emerges, right? Because old us are not there anymore, most often. We speak about survival versus resilience, because it's important to give distinction because survival and resilience are a bit different terms. It's important to pay attention to emotional regulation techniques and what we can do, what techniques are there, right? And in this way, we go a little bit beyond coaching, but we have to be able to, I believe, right, to deal with this for ourselves.
I want to say just one little thing. We talked about emotional regulation, but actually we're talking about your regulation of the nervous system. So many times coaches go like, oh, we don't want to deal with emotions. This is beyond emotions. This is regulating the nervous system. And, in this document, there's an invitation for coaching to evolve into areas where, a lot of coaches are afraid to go. But in this context, it's necessary.
Thank you. So what else we mentioned? Micro goals for daily survival, because every day becomes like the only thing we have, and we have to be able to have these goals for the day, building on and adapting existing strengths and resources. Also, we have ethical and cultural considerations, because again, as we mentioned, war is a human-created reality where there are different groups, different cultures involved, and how this affects coaching is also very important. And what we also suggest, as we are coaches, reflection for coaches and some questions. Like, for example, one of the questions we suggest, how do I define resilience, and what assumptions might I be making about what resilience should look like based on my own culture, identity, or experience? And other questions we suggest here. The next we have is post-traumatic growth. Would you like to start?
Yeah, so when we're talking about post-traumatic growth, this is the difference between everything's going to be okay and I can be okay. And what does being okay mean? Post-traumatic growth means being able to get the learnings out of the trauma, out of the crisis, and then integrate them into personal growth. Post-traumatic growth is different from resilience, although there's a correspondence between them. And oftentimes when people talk about post-traumatic growth, what they say is we need to achieve the post-trauma before we can talk about growth. Meaning the trauma needs to end, we shift into the post of the trauma, and then we go into growth. One of the unique things in this context is we need to start the growth before the trauma ends because the trauma is ongoing, okay? So we talk about that in the document. We talk about the fact that there is a possibility to talk about post-traumatic growth, and that doesn't make the trauma, the pain, or the loss any smaller, about the fact that it's subjective and it's not a linear process. The fact that post-traumatic growth coexists with grief and pain and loss. That's why we don't wait for after the trauma is done, and we can't in this context. And we talk about the fact that both post-traumatic growth has a ripple effect, and how relevant it is in different kinds of coaching settings, group coaching, team coaching, stuff like that, when people can come together and share the learning. So when we can bring people together to share their own growth, that has a ripple effect on others. You want to add?
And what I believe is important here, that actually here in post-traumatic growth, coaching is really important, as I mentioned from my experience yesterday. Again, for Ukrainians, we sometimes forget that there is future, that there might be future, that we actually should think about this future, yeah? And coaching actually helps to think about this future and orient, because future will be there, right? Future is coming. We are 3 years into the war, and we will have our bright future ahead. So we still have to think about this future and project this future. And what else? It's important to take this into consideration is that coaching invites clients to shift in a proactive mindset, what we can do, what we can change, and identify these resources and shift into these shoes of where we can actually change something. And we can, as coaches, are really able to help and to change this narrative, because again, the old world has collapsed, it's gone. And so we have to reconstruct this narrative. We have to recreate this story with new strengths sometimes, because we have great challenges ahead. And there is nobody but us who will have to overcome these challenges.
Very true.
And again, here we talk about things coaches must be aware of. It's just what you, Shiri, has mentioned, and you mentioned, and ethical, cultural, again, considerations and reflections for coaches. Like questions like, for example, what biases do I hold about what successful recovery or transformation should look like? Right? Because the success before and after the war is a different type of success. And there's, you already mentioned here in the chat that it's a different story right now. Then we have executive functions.
So executive functions are basically cognitive strategies to help us manage our world. Executive functions are time management and resource management and task initiation and emotional agility and self-care and a lot of things. And as coaches, we constantly deal with our clients' executive functions. But in this context, we need to understand that executive functions are challenged. They're challenged. So 2 things. One is that everyone in the context of collective trauma is under a significant amount of stress. And when we're talking about stress, we're talking about high levels of cortisol in the body. High levels of cortisol over time change the way our brain functions. They also change the way our body functions, but that's a completely different conversation. But they change the way our brain functions. They affect our ability to learn, our ability to remember, our ability to communicate, our ability to prioritize, our ability to shift into action, our ability to regulate ourselves. They affect so many things. Okay, And that disrupts our ability to manage our lives. In this document, one thing that we point at is that there are two coaching niches that have modalities to deal with the dysfunction of executive functions. One is ADHD coaching, and the other is caregiver coaching. So what we want to say is, if you are a coach living in collective trauma, if you're coaching a client living in collective trauma, listen out for the executive functions. And if you are stuck with your own executive functions, then get some coaching, but first of all, understand why. And when your client might be stuck with executive functions that they used to master, this is not your failure, this is not your client's failure. Understand that this happens in the context of collective trauma, and you just simply need another approach, okay? And it's absolutely critical to address executive functions because, you know, like Elena said, a lot of coaches come and say, yeah, we want to be able to shift into a more resilient place, be more resourceful. How do we move on? A lot of that sits on executive functions. That's the day-to-day function, but also long-term function.
Yeah, thanks, Shiri. And you have shared here almost all the things. So again, here is important to have ethical considerations and not to forget to refer clients to mental health professionals. And also we have reflections for coaches because again, we may have biases, assumptions, and one of the questions we might ask ourselves is like, what helps me adjust my pace, communication style, or goal setting frameworks to match the client's current capacity? And there will be more questions. We will be offering more information on this. The fourth is moral injury. I'll maybe start and you can finish. Yeah. So what do we mean by moral injury is the damage done to one's conscience or moral compass when the person perpetrates, witnesses, or fails to prevent acts that transgress one's own moral beliefs, values, or ethical codes of conduct. I can say that for me, this war was like, I couldn't believe it was happening. It was so much outside of my possibility mode, like outside of what was possible, outside of my moral compass, that's actually was the weakest point. And actually this moral injury, it debilitates people. So it makes us weak. We don't have this spiritual, how to say, strength, understanding. And that's where we fail and we stumble. And again, as coaches, especially ICF coaches, we do have the ethical code. We do work on values, identity, self. And I think that's where we can help clients address this issue to help them figure out what is this new moral compass, because all things might not function anymore. So there is a doubt in this world, in ourselves, in everything. How do we live in this world? My question was, how do I live in this world? And Shiri, yeah, please add something you want to add.
So moral injury is first and foremost an issue of values. But we as coaches, we know how to work with values, but it's not enough. Because moral injury oftentimes is also called secondary traumatization. It has a profound emotional effect on us, and it can lead to guilt, shame, emotional pain, a sense of betrayal. This is fundamental, and this is something that isn't spoken in the world of coaching, and we need to. In some cases, moral injury should go to therapy, by all means, but not all the time. There is a lot that we can offer here. And the first thing, you know, part of our reflective question was, am I listening enough? Is my listening intuitive and sensitive enough to hear moral injury in this space? Because oftentimes it's communicated through emotions, when actually the issue here is deeper than that. The entire structure, my entire structure of values and beliefs about who I am, what the world is, what is good, bad, what is impossible, like Elena said, that has crashed, and it has crashed very violently. And of course, we also, with every of these topics, you know, we offer the ethical and cultural perspective, which is very important. So that's, you know, one thing that I want to say about this document. We didn't skip that.
Yeah, and what I can say is that having worked with you, Shiri, on this document actually expanded my view, my vision. And I can say that I will read and reread because it's still, you know, like, you don't think about it. It's not written anywhere. It's not like obvious, let's say. But while you are at least having an idea that these things are there, it already gives you some clue of what to do, what not to do, of actually where I can put my feet, on which ground. And the last, we have this loss and grief. So when we talk about loss and grief, we talk about a wide range of experiences. We lose our identity, we lose our roles, we may lose our homeland, our community, stability, safety, routine, resources, trust in ourselves, in other people, in the world, and even, as we mentioned before, a sense of future. And in this large-scale crisis like war, clients may experience ambiguous, layered and unresolved losses, which are often unspoken or socially invalidated. And grieving these losses is essential for integration and healing.
Yeah. So we talk about what grief is and how it's different from mourning. We extend an invitation to be grief aware. And one thing that we come to learn is that first and foremost, whether you want to become a grief coach or not, that is not the invitation. In order for grief to start processing, and I'm not using the word healing, okay? You know, we're going to open it for questions in a bit. So if you want to know why, then, you know, I'm happy to answer that. But first and foremost, grief needs to be witnessed. And as coaches, we need to remember it because grief is always spoken. So again, we need to learn to listen to it and invite the client to speak it, and then we need to listen. And one of the reflective questions that we offer is about our ability to hold space for our own grief and for grief of others without fixing it. Grief doesn't need fixing. It needs to be witnessed and acknowledged. That's it.
And again,
yeah, in certain situations, you know, it might need therapy, but that's not the majority.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, again, it goes without saying that we consider ethics and our ability to figure out when we refer the client to the therapist. But there are situations when you just need to be there with the client. And Shiri mentioned, give them space just to be with them as a human being in this full coaching presence. And sometimes it's already like healing. It's already helping a lot. That's what I have witnessed in my practice. We also have here reflections for coaches, the questions we have prepared, and what we offer, like the final ideas is to be trauma-informed, to have an idea what is trauma, to be grief-informed, to prioritize safety and stability, balance strength with sensitivity, and encourage support networks. And I'll stop my sharing. We have 6 minutes to finish our session, our webinar. And I would like to ask you, what is your takeaway from the session? Because for us, it's something new. It's like, it's the first time we share this document, these ideas, these thoughts. And we would really appreciate if you shared your thoughts, your ideas, what you think about it, anything you want to share, like in a couple of minutes. You may share it in comments or just speak up.
So as you're articulating that, I just want to say that at the end of this document, there's a call to action. We actually end the document with a list of things that you can do. So if you're asking yourself, okay, I understand it, but what do I do next? We have a roadmap for you.
So if you're interested, so we have the comment, thanks a lot. It was very useful. I got convinced in which direction as a coach I have to grow and develop. Thank you very much, Julia, for your comment. And I think if there are no further comments, we're just finishing this session. I give you the last chance or possibility. I think it's a heavy topic. It's a heavy conversation, but I think it's necessary to start it, to develop it, and actually to speak more about it. In different coaching circles, in different outside of coaching circles, we have to find this courage to speak about it and let the world know what we are experiencing, where we are.
I agree.
Okay, so yeah, thank you very much, Shiri, for this work. I thank all the coaches, everyone who have participated in the preparation of this document, our third author, Olena Fedorchenko, and the rest of our wonderful team, both from ICF Ukraine and ICF Israel.
And ICF Lithuania.
And ICF Lithuania, yes, absolutely. I thank our participant from ICF Lithuania, because Lithuanians are our big friends and supporters. It's very important. And Svetlana Shkil has this comment you can read, and very deep and important topic. So thank you very much. And yeah, if you want to reach out, just feel free, because it's just the beginning for us. And we will keep going, keep informing in ICF, beyond ICF, about this topic and about coaching during the times of war. So thank you very much for this space.
Thank you.
Дякуємо, Ширі, дякуємо, Олена, вам. І дійсно, Людмила пише, дуже глибока і важка тема, але необхідна для всіх нас. І особисто для мене було таким інсайтом сьогодні усвідомити, що успіх до війни і успіх після війни – це два різних успіхи. Сенси до війни і сенси після війни, вони також цінності, все змінилося, цілі. І дякую вам ще раз за таку важливу, живу тему для всіх, для нас. І хочу нагадати, що Олена разом з Ширі створили документ для підтримки коучів між ICF Україна і ICF Ізраїль, який документ для коучів, які працюють з окремими особами та громадами, постраждалими від війни та колективної травми. І ми дослідили разом з нашими спікерками, і як коучинг може створювати простір для стійкості, для подолання горя, для подолання моральної травми і посттравматичного зростання зі смиренням, чуйністю і надією. І колеги поділилися, опираючись на власний досвід, своїми ключовими ідеями з документу разом з рефлексивними питаннями, так, для поглиблення коучингової практики. Дякую вам. Thank you very much. Дуже дякую. І, колеги, будемо раді за ваші реакції для наших доповідачів. Я зупиняю запис і за ваш зворотній зв'язок в формі.